My name's Peter Harris. I'm team leader of UCCF Wales. UCCF exists to give every student a chance to hear and respond to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And the way we do that is through Christian unions at universities. And so UCCF works alongside CUs at universities to share the wonderful gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. What that looks like is that I head up the staff on the ground. We have staff all across Wales in every university town, working alongside our CU leaders, our students who are motivated, passionate in order to share that gospel. And so my job looks at the strategy across Wales. How best do we reach the next generation of students? How do we craft winsome, inviting messages which can convey the gospel to this new generation of students that we see appearing? How do we raise up leaders to take the gospel not just at the time at university, but then after, when they go back to their churches, when they go back to wherever they've come from? We want to bless the church in that way. And so over the years, UCCF has raised up leaders who haven't just obviously been leaders at universities and in their Christian unions, but then gone on to serve the wider church after they've left. The students of today are classified as Gen Z, who are kind of typically born between kind of 1995 to 2000, and now we're starting to have full Gen Z students who have been born after the year 2000. Makes me feel very old. But yeah, I guess the way that you would picture Gen Zs is they're born at a time when, as my colleague Pete Dre says, they think of Princess Diana, a historical figure. They think as DVDs as antiques. And they know Gary Lineker more for him selling crisps than they do in him playing football. And so that's kind of like generation that have come to university. And if you think of their life and what they've been born into, they've been born into quite an anxious part of history. So they've been born in light of the Iraq War. They've been born in light of the Great Crash in 2007 and 8. And because of that, they are just generally more anxious than previous generations. In fact, since the last generation, since just after World War II. They are also more socially conservative. So whereas I'm technically a millennial, compared to my generation, these guys are far more socially conservative in that they drink less, they're having less sex, they are not doing drugs, all at historic and record lows. And they also have huge what's called FOLO, which is fear of living offline. The average Gen Zer spends 13 hours online. And so this is a completely different generation to the one we had before. They're also quite creative. So 1 in 4 will post a video online because they spend a lot of their lives online and they interact online. So they're a very creative bunch. And also a big characteristic, sadly, is that they're chronically lonely. And this is to a number of cultural reasons, whether that's the fact that there's far less intergenerational relationships, there is a dearth of real, actual community anymore, which they experience or they don't experience anymore. And there's obviously a greater role of technology which plays in their lives, which means the kind of face-to-face interaction they're just lacking. And so there are real harmful cultural circumstances. But I also think underpinned with that is actually something far deeper and far darker, which is a really kind of dark ideology. I was speaking at a CU Mission Week last year, and one of the talks that the students gave me, because all the talks that we speak at come from the questions that students are asking, and it was called Something More Than My Loneliness. And I, as an evangelist, have never had to give a talk like that before. And so what I focused on was how Jesus on the cross experiences cosmic loneliness so that we can be brought into the family, the community of God. And looking out across this room of students, eyes wide open, you could hear a pin drop. And it was clear that this really resonated with them. And this is something that they're really thinking deeply. And when you think about it, these guys have been brought up on a diet of, through education and culture of, we've come from nothing, life is a cosmic accident, I'm going to nothing. and therefore ultimately my life is meaningless. I am alone in the world. And there's something at the back of their heads that, this is not how life is supposed to be. This is not how life is supposed to be for me. It's supposed to be far better than the world that I find myself in. And so we find, despite these big challenges, these great hurdles of loneliness, of anxiety, of living life all the time online, that there are huge opportunities because the gospel resonates in these areas. We can say to them that you don't have to be anxious because there's a God who loves and looks after you. That you don't have to be lonely anymore because there's a God who wants to know you and have a personal relationship with you. And when you become a Christian, you get to be brought into this wonderful community called the church that wants to look after you, love you, and be your friend. And so there are huge challenges for this new generation of Generation Z. But I am the most optimistic for gospel witness in the student world than I ever have been, because the opportunities are so vast, so many, and we're seeing the gospel resonate so vibrantly in this current generation. And we see that through the tens of thousands of students across the UK who go to Freshers evangelistic events, that go to our mission weeks, our events weeks, who go to the tens of thousands that go to carol services, who meet at one-to-one with their friends going through a gospel. We are seeing a real appetite for people to have real answers to life's real questions. And UCCF Wales is trying to do a bit of that here in our homeland in Wales. If you look at the history of the church, especially in the last 100 years, and UCCF, there's been a long tradition, a long history of UCCF raising up leaders who then go on and into the church. Some of the speakers we've had here at the Welsh Leadership Forum are on staff within InterVarsity, but then also UCCF in decades gone by. And so UCCF see it as one of our goals and mission, that even though our primary focus is to reach students, of course, through evangelism, through CU leadership, you're raising up leaders who are going to be able to speak into the culture of today and do that well. And so we see a wonderful tie-up where we can identify leaders at a young age when they're just got to university, and we throw them in to the deep waters of evangelism and get them working out how to share the gospel with their friends. And then we really want to train, equip, disciple them in order to be the leaders of the future. And so we see a wonderful type where UCCF can help bring about raising up more leaders who are winsome in their evangelism, who want to see the church grow in Wales. And we want to put an offer there that's our best and brightest. They don't necessarily have to leave Wales to find those opportunities, that we can create those opportunities for them to serve and to lead well in Wales. And so we see a wonderful tie-up where UCCF can help this initiative that many church leaders here at the Welsh Leadership Forum are trying to do, is identifying leaders, growing leaders, maturing them, and then sending them out to share the gospel in Wales.